Hey there everybody, how are you? It is my first time getting a boat in this season. It's maybe still a little early. It's only about 54 degrees out here. The water's really cold. It's windy, and I picked a creek where I could get sheltered from the wind a little bit, but unfortunately it's low tide, so can't go up as far as I'd like to, and you can see a lot of the mud flats that are exposed here. But anyway, I just got tagged here recently by a group of guys named, well, a set of identical twins named Brian and Scott from Brisco Hikes. They're out in Central Virginia, and they tagged me with a list of questions around, you know, it's one of these tags around getting to know each other better. So figured I'd share. About a month ago, I also got tagged in a very similar thing by Backpack Bushcraft, and I never got around to responding to that, so sorry, Bushy. Yes, the irony of doing a hiker tag while in a boat is not lost on me, but that's kind of my story. Let me just go through the questions and we'll get there. Who am I? My name's Troy. I run this little channel and website and blog around getting out in the outdoors, and my mission is to demystify and encourage people to get out. I feel like we've collectively got a disconnect with the natural world these days, and I think we're losing a lot as a society. So I run this little thing called Flying Squirrel. I am a hiker. I started doing that when I was about 3 years old, out in Southwest Virginia, climbing up Sharp Top in the Peaks of Otter, which I know a lot of y'all are familiar with. I used to climb that mountain all the time. Backpacking is my #1 love. I will do anything really outdoors: paddling, camping, hiking, whatever, biking, sailing. But backpacking is #1. Long distance or distance canoe trekking is probably the second. Which brings me to why I'm here. You know, I grew up in the mountains of Virginia. I'm now on the east coast of Maryland, on the Chesapeake Bay. Not a lot of mountains around here. Not really known for your hiking and backpacking. So you adapt. You know, you become multi-sport. Sailing and paddling are what it's all about out here. And I still hike and I backpack, and the mountains aren't that far. Let's see. My favorite trail food. I love food. I like to eat. And I do not like instant dehydrated stuff that's oversimplified. So I tend to be creative with my cooking. I seek out recipes that are the sort of things I would want to eat at home. I've done a lot of cooking on this channel and recipes on my blog, so check that out. But things like, you know, jambalaya and stroganoff and shepherd's pie on the trail, and you know, that kind of thing. I like spicy, I like hot, but again, I like fairly complex flavors. What is my longest hike? Well, for me, you know, I get out weekends when I can, and on a weekend trip I'll shoot for 25-30 miles. 50 to 80 mile trip is a long trip for me. My longest at one go was 141. I did a 140 some odd mile stretch of the Appalachian Trail a couple of falls ago now. That was an 11-day trip. I can't wait to do something like that again, actually. That was a lot of fun. I've never really been intrigued by being a thru hiker per se on any of the really long distance trails, and it has nothing to do with, well, a lot to do with time and having the opportunity, but to be honest, I've sort of gotten turned off by the moving party atmosphere that some of those trails have developed. One of the reasons I like to get out there is to connect with nature and enjoy nature, and running down the trail with a herd of 10 people screaming at the top of their lungs, just, I don't know. I'm sure it isn't all like that, but yeah, anyway, I have to pick my battles, I suppose. Let's see, my most repeated trail. Well, I've done a lot in Shenandoah National Park. I've done a lot south of there along the Blue Ridge Parkway and into Southwest Virginia. Nowadays, over here in Maryland, my go-to is probably St. Mary's River State Park. It's a 7.5-mile loop where I can just go do that after work. Calvert Cliffs State Park over on the bay is a really nice trail network, although again not hugely long. And the American Chestnut Land Trust near Prince Frederick. My 3 bucket list hikes. That's tough. I've got a lot of them, and my bucket list probably isn't a whole lot different from others, but my next long trip I'd really like to be Wonderland out in Washington State, all the way around Mount Rainier. I'd like to do the Superior Trail up in Wisconsin, Minnesota, along the Lake Superior. Oh, and of course I'd like to do John Muir. You know, who wouldn't, up in the High Sierra. So those are probably my top 3, but honestly, you know, White Mountains, Sheltowee Trace, Bartram Trail, sections of the AT, really anything. I mean, I'm up for different ecosystems. You know, again, I'm not there to test myself so much as I am to experience nature, and so I really appreciate the difference between, say, a marsh and a mountaintop. Do I use GPS or a map and a compass? Compass is honestly pretty rare, but I always have a map, and a good topo map where you can look at terrain features. I think that kind of orienteering is an essential skill, and terrain awareness. And oh, by the way, I love doing competitive orienteering too. I'm not that great at it, not that fast. I'm pretty accurate, but not that fast. I do enjoy that too. It's a good skill builder, and I've done some videos on that. I carry a GPS. It's one of my favorite items to have, but I do it more as a mapping tool than relying on it. You know, I certainly pull it up and say the distance to my next waypoint or whatever, but it's not primary navigation. I'm mainly capturing a record of what I did. Who do I hike with? That's been one of my challenges, honestly. Again, where I live, there's not a whole lot of people who like to do what I do. It's just not kind of in the local culture. So finding people who are willing to go out for 3 or 4 days at a time out of a backpack isn't all that easy. I've started doing more solo trips as a result of that, and found actually that I really enjoy that. You know, when you're not carrying on a conversation with somebody all the time, you tend to see more and experience more. That said, there is the joy of sharing with people, but I would say small groups, you know, maybe up to 4. My exception to that is I like to teach. I'm very active with Boy Scouts and with other youth groups, and passing that on and teaching people skills. And it's not just youth, I mean adults too, who've not done a whole lot of this, but who are interested in doing it. I love being a part of that and helping out. So, you know, I'll take any comers there. Speaking of being alone, as I paddled up here, there's a red fox that went across this creek and up this hill behind me. For all I know, he could be walking around back there in the camera and I don't know it. But that's the sort of thing, you know, if you're with a group, chances are you're startling animals like that long before you get a chance to see them. But the fox, there's been a great blue heron flying around back here. Let's see, finally, last but not least, what do I look for in a trail? Isolation, wilderness. You know, there's a certain element of risk management by going deep into the backcountry, but I really enjoy that. You know, if I can hear civilization, if I can hear a car, if I can hear signs of humans, I'm too close, right? I want to get out there, and I want to be able to walk honestly for 3 or 4 days and not cross a road. That's rare, particularly on the East Coast, but that's what I like. You know, beyond that, like I say, it could be views, it could be waterfalls. You know, I love mountain creeks, I love ridge walking, I love climbing mountains. I love the little quiet glade under a hemlock tree. I mean, it's really a little bit of anything, and I tend to enjoy wherever I am, the different environments and different ecosystems, and just kind of observing how everything comes together in places like that. So I'm not picky, I guess, is the bottom line. So anyway, that's me. I hope that gives you a little bit of insight into who I am. I hope that you take this opportunity to see some of my other stuff and kind of see what I'm involved with. You know, I mentioned a lot of the things I do outside. One of the big ones also is astronomy. I've tried. It doesn't lend itself to YouTube a lot, but I've tried. I do blog about it on about a weekly basis, you know, kind of what's going on in the sky. I'm just fascinated with some of that too. So anyway, I hope this helps, and appreciate you stopping by. This being a tag, I do need to call somebody else out, and it's not a huge list. I think I'm just going to pick one and ask KrizAkoni, Alpha Gal, if he would mind responding to this with these questions. Again, I know not everybody likes tag videos, but from a standpoint of getting to know a little bit more about you, appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for dropping by, and thanks again to Brisco and to Bushy for calling me out. And get out there. I'll see you next time. Thanks.